As a Nordic shaman, I use the sounds of the runes as a healing tool when I am doing my shamanic work. And I thought I would run through the runes of the Younger Futhark that I use with their sounds, and just kind of introduce them. I was also taught that each of the runes of the Younger Futhark has particular deities associated with them. This is a fantastic tool because it means that you can immerse yourself in the Norse mythology, understand the story of that deity, and that can really unlock the meanings of the runes. So I'm going to run through the 16 runes of the Younger Futhark. Name the deities that I associate with each rune, and then chant the rune sound that I would use in a healing. So we start with the Fee rune, which I associate with Frey, and the sound would be Fee. Next, we have the Ur rune, which I associate with Vidar, and the sound would be. Now we have the Thor rune, associated unsurprisingly with Thor, and the sound would be. Now we have the Os rune, associated with Odin, and the sound is. And now we have the Rai rune, which I associate with Hell, and the sound is. And now we have the Kreft rune, associated with Loki. And although I'm very comfortable working with Loki, perhaps a little too comfortable working with Loki, he's our trickster god. The sound of his rune is Kreft. And the Kreft rune, the sound Kreft, has associations with canker, cancer, and illness. As yet, I have never used the sound of his rune in a healing, Kreft. I have only ever called upon his name. So, just a note of caution there for the sound of the rune Kreft. Moving on to Hagel's Et or Hagel's family. The rune is Hagel, the deity is Heimdall, and the sound is. Hagel. We then have the Nud rune, associated with the three Norns, Erd, Verdandi, and Skuld, and the sound would be. Nud. Then we have the Is rune, associated with Skarve, with the sound being. And then we have the rune R, which I associate with Jord, and the sound being. Moving on to Tiazet. The rune is Tia, the god is Tia, and the sound is. Tia. Next rune is Bjork. The deity is Frigg, and the sound is Bjork. Then we have the Marn rune, which I associate with Freya, and the sound is Marn. And finally, we have the Ear rune, which I associate with Ul, and the sound is and so I use these sounds to form a shamanic energy healing. I do work with the chakras, even though that's not necessarily strictly Norse, because it works. My job is not to recreate something that is lost. I'm not claiming to be, correct in any sort of historical sense. My job is to make a difference to the clients right now in my life. So, as I rearrange these, an example of working with the chakras, if I put them in order, this is not the only set of runes I would work with the chakras. I would adjust the runes depending upon my client and the situation. This is an example, and I'm chant through all of them. I might use Os or Odin for the crown chakra. I might use Marn or Freya for the third eye. I might use, it seems to have disappeared, which is ridiculous because they're all here somewhere. There we go. I might use Tia for the throat. I personally love to use Rai or Hel for the heart. She's the All Mother. We've all come from hell and we will probably all return there. But Yord or R would also be a good option there. I tend to use Fi or Frey for the solar plexus, but Thor or Boulder would work really well there as well. I almost always use, and again, it seems to have gone. I must have, there we go. I must have turned some of them over. Laug or Njord for the sacral chakra, because Laug is water and the sacral chakra is about the digestive system, the womb, so water really works there. For the root chakra, there's various ones. I have used Bjork quite a lot, actually, Frigg. I have used R for Yord, but I do particularly like Vidar down there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to chant these from the crown down to the roots, and just really sit with the sound and see how it feels to you. One thing you can do if you wanted to do this for yourself, or if you wanted to do it with the video, is to put your feet flat on the earth. If you'll notice the runes of the Younger Futhark, they all have an axis mundi. They all have a line from the earth to the sky. So I always find whenever I'm doing shamanic work, I create that axis mundi myself. I have my feet flat on the earth and I have my crown upright to the sky. And then as you're breathing in, breathe in from the soles of your feet and allow the energy to rise. And as you breathe out, you can put your hands over whichever chakra you're working on and allow that earth energy to flow into the chakra. And so I'm just going to roll through these now one at a time. I'll use a pen to point to them. Starting with the crown chakra. And a good question at this point is, how did I create these associations? Well, it's very simple. I took everything I was taught by my teacher. I trained in 1999 with a guy called Sean Brassfield Thorpe. His teacher is Ivar Hashfold, and it's all come through Ivar Hashfold's family lineage. I took that information, and then for the last 9 years, I have been running twice monthly groups, chanting. Now it's 3 times a month because I also do these groups on Zoom, listening to people's experiences. It's one thing I do. I chant, I create a soundscape using the runes, and then I listen to how people have experienced it. And I also work one to one, both in person on Zoom. And again, I use the runes as a healing tool. I blend the sounds to create a healing soundscape, and I listen to what my clients have experienced. And by doing this, by exploring both in the groups with people that are not in trauma, and then by applying it to people who've perhaps booked in for healing, and by listening, I'm able to validate which runes work better, how people have experienced it, and how it makes a difference. So, I'm building more resources on my website, and I'll be sharing more videos here. But I just wanted to share how I use the runes as a healing tool.